These were depositions of the people in Macon, Georgia. For example, Steven was getting a lot of his treatment through a clinic in Macon. And so these were the people that worked at that clinic, and they were responsible for sending patients to outside providers when the treatment couldn't be provided at the VA. The reason Steven was being sent to an outside provider is because the Macon, Georgia, and the Dublin VA didn't offer pain management services. They didn't have people that were qualified or trained to offer those services, so they needed to go to a competent outside provider.
Mm-hmm. And the VA doctor that he was seeing, first off, do you know how to pronounce his or her names?
Her name was Dr. Wagbata.
Mm-hmm. Was that doctor at the Macon clinic or was it down in Dublin?
She worked in the Macon clinic, and she was responsible for Steven's primary care. And she continued to see Steven even after she had referred him to a pain management specialist. And it was when she saw him for his yearly physical, and he'd been seeing the pain management specialist for a couple months, that Steven told her that he never felt better in his life because of getting that treatment from Dr. Playton. Dr. Playton was an excellent physician who changed Steven's life.
Do you know, is that doctor, I don't know if you found out during the deposition, is she still employed with the VA?
She is still employed with the VA, and that's one of the things that concerns me, is that she is still employed with the VA, and I don't know what kind of action is taken against her as a result of this. You know, one of the things that I found out during her deposition is that she admitted she filled out a survey indicating how stressful and difficult it was working at that VA because she couldn't always do what she thought was the right thing to do.
During the deposition, I'm not sure if that was one of the questions you asked her because I wasn't able to look through everything. Did she say that she's still currently employed with the VA system?
She is. She is still currently employed with the VA system. I took her deposition for the better part of a day, and she is still currently employed at the Macon Clinic.
And, you know, what was just, because based on a little bit that I was able to read, it just seemed like she was overwhelmed, feeling overworked, feel like she didn't have the proper resources. Do you feel like that's a viable excuse?
It's not an excuse at all. You know, those are resources that she should have been provided, but part of it also had to deal with the fact that she didn't take the time to become aware of what she was supposed to do. Now, she was supposed to, for example, attend this meeting of primary care physicians about how to treat chronic pain patients with opioids, but she didn't even sit in and listen to that. She was going back and forth and not seeing seeing patients, and she also didn't know that it was something that was recorded that she could have listened to later. She didn't do that either.
And, you know, just right now, I know you all have already settled with the U.S. or, you know, by way of the VA. Why do you feel like it's still important to continue with the call center and the Bobby Dodd Institute?
Because they need to be held accountable for Steven's death. It was horrible what happened during that phone conversation. It was a phone conversation that could have saved Steven's life. His sister was telling the operator, Miss Carswell, where Steven was, what he was going to do, what time he was going to do it by. They had a picture of his car in the parking lot that was just outside of the VA, where less than an hour before he was at the pharmacy window begging to get medications filled, and they weren't filled.
And were y'all able to listen to that audio of the phone call, or did they have transcripts of it? Or
we asked, and they said there were no transcripts available. What we know is it was a conversation that took about 9 minutes, because we have Lisa's phone records, which show when the phone conversation started and how long it lasted. And during that 9 minutes, Miss Johnson, Lisa, Steven's sister, she was being put on hold, being told, your brother's not here. And Lisa's saying, yes, he is. His car's in the parking lot. He's going to shoot himself by 5 o'clock if something isn't done.
Yeah.
And they knew that because they were able to see how you have your iPhone, where it finds your iPhone is. They saw that on the computer screen, and we actually even have a picture of that.
Yeah. So Steven's sister, did she try to call the VA itself, or was it like a helpline, or what was the number that she tried to call?
She called the VA directly.
And she got rerouted to a call center.
The call center was actually the switchboard operator at the VA. So when she called the VA, it was a switchboard operator who answered the call, and that switchboard operator was Miss Carswell. She was not a VA employee. She was an independent contractor who worked with a company called the Bobby Dodd Institute. The Bobby Dodd Institute contracted with the Carl Vinson VA to provide their switchboard services. And Miss Carswell was the switchboard operator who took the call from Lisa that afternoon.
And she was in Lawrence County at the Dublin VA.
Yes.
Okay. And she took...
Physically located in that property.
And just based on, because I remember what Steven's sister was telling me on Miss Lisa, there was really no urgency or anything like that of trying to see what's going on or calling, Carl Vinson PD or Dublin PD to see what's happening.
The operator didn't do any of that. There was actually police officers on the property at the VA, and what she should have done is she should have contacted them immediately upon getting the call from Lisa. And I actually deposed the officer who would have responded, and he told me that it was more likely than not that if he would have got the call from the switchboard operator, that he could have been there within 3 minutes and de-escalated the situation. He told me that he'd actually done that type of thing before, because this problem with veterans not getting their medications was something that he had to deal with before. And he had to deal with angry veterans, and he was able to diffuse the situation. And if he would have got the call from Miss Carswell, he could have been there within a matter of minutes, and he believes that he could have talked Steven down and de-escalated the situation.
So just a man, Steven ended up taking his life.
That's correct. Actually, what happened is that morning, Steven spoke with his primary care physician because for the last 2 days, he'd been calling in asking to get a refill on his medication. And so when he spoke with his pain management specialist on the morning of April 5th, he not only asked her to give him the medication, he told her, look, I have been calling saying, why haven't I been sent to my pain management specialist? And that's when Dr. Wagbata said, I'm going to follow up on this. And in the notes, she writes, what's the status of this pain management referral that should have happened weeks earlier?
And Dr. Wagbata, does she have a first name? Or that's something that they just keep?
She does have a first name, but I cannot pronounce it.
Okay. And I definitely. Do you know what nationality that is, or
I believe she's from Africa.
Okay. And I guess just my my second to last question for you is personally, why keep fighting?
Because it's the right thing to do. Because I know what Michelle, his mom, has gone through. I talk to her frequently. I know how much her heart is broken. But the goal also is, Wanya, to do something that can prevent this kind of thing from happening again. That's why I take the information that I've learned from these depositions. and I'm going to write a letter to each member of the Department of Veterans Affairs and tell them Steven's story and ask them to do something to prevent it. We actually even, I had done that earlier, and we got a very kind and generous letter from Senator Bernie Sanders, the only person who apologized to Michelle for what happened to her son. And that's what this is about. And that's why we're continuing to fight, is to continue to institute change so this doesn't happen to anybody else.
Mm-hmm. And if you could, talk to the secretary of the VA, or if you could ask him any questions, what would you say?
I would want to find out, why can't you fix this problem? You know it's a problem. You know there's problems with chronic understaffing. You know there's problems with getting competent physicians to deal with the veterans. Why can't you fix this problem? What about this bureaucracy that you deal with is preventing any real change from happening?
Mm-hmm. And just my last question for you, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I think that Michelle is a fighter, and I appreciate what she's doing to try and make change happen here. She doesn't want the memory of her son Steven to be in vain, and I applaud her for moving forward and doing what is right and trying to institute change so this doesn't happen to other people.